that the number of homes for sale, you can see every summer when we're looking at this graph, it kind of peaks, where we see the number of homes for sale peak and then they trail off as we head into the winter. But what I can tell you is that we're seeing some things that are kind of breaks in the pattern. So it's going to be unique and interesting. I do think though, this month, May, get ready. I think we're going to see a ton of stuff hit the market. Hey guys, Jake Nicolle here. Very excited for us today to dive in and talk about the market stats for everything Southern GTA. And the first thing we're going to notice is we've actually seen the market jump up a bunch. So let's jump right in. Now, looking at our April numbers, we're seeing that we have an average sale price of 805, which is very reminiscent of kind of where we were June 2022, so the summer of 2022. Now, we're still a ways off of our peak, right? Our peak was at 983, so we're still almost 20% down off the peak. But the main thing I want you to notice that's really, really interesting for this month is when I click on new listings, look at this. This is super wild to see because it's been quite a few years since we've seen a totally flat April like this. Obviously, I'm erasing the fact that our listings during COVID in 2020, we saw them drop way down because everybody was like, man, what's gonna happen with the market? So in April, things drop. Right here, let me just zoom way out and I wanna show you guys why I find this so interesting. Just as a recap, if you look at most months, okay, you see March to April, we're gonna see an incline. So look here, March, April. This is an incline in how many houses are being listed. March, April, okay? March, April, that was a littler incline back there in 2016. But back in 2011 and 2012, we saw these like very flat March to April months where there wasn't a ton of listing. In 2012, we actually even saw a slight decline in the new listings hitting the market. That's really interesting because that's very similar to what's going on over here where we're seeing this very flat March to April. And all that means is that the month of March to the month of April, there was the same number of new listings hitting the market. So the spring market is kind of a little quieter on those new listings, which I think is what's causing a big spike in the pricing. Because if we look at the number of sales that are happening, we see a little bit of a spike, but if we look at days on market, we see things falling down even lower. So if things were taking, you know, at the beginning of this year, if they were taking 28 days on market, now it's taking 14 days. So 4 weeks versus 2 weeks on market. Big difference in how fast things are selling from January. And then if we look at month supply, we can see that the supply is creeping up a little bit, but things are selling closer to their listing price. So they're selling for more money, all right? You can see even here, they're selling, you know, 99, 98% of their asking price. And then in terms of sales price, we're definitely seeing things climb from January. So here's my take on what's going on right now. You would think logically, which I've talked about in these other videos, that if you increase supply and you have the same amount of demand, then what you should see happen is you should technically see pricing come down a little bit because there's so much supply hitting the market, the demand hasn't changed. But I'm gonna give you a little analogy. It's almost like we have a pond of water and everybody's thirsty at all times here in the GTA, meaning they want to go buy houses, they need to buy houses, they need to drink from the little lake that's there. And then all of a sudden what happens is in the spring, we get this huge downpour, which is new listings. We get new houses hitting the market. So all winter long, we had water there, but not very many people were going to drink water from that lake. And then all of a sudden in the spring, when you get all of that fresh water, all the buyers that have always needed to drink and they've always been there and they're always thirsty, suddenly they all decide now is the time to go get a drink. So it's counterintuitive because you would naturally think, well, if you increase the supply, doesn't that mean that the demand is going to be even more satisfied? Because if there was enough houses for the demand before or enough water to go around before and you increase the water supply, shouldn't everybody have way more than enough to drink and shouldn't everything be just fine? Well, it's almost like the reverse happens. It's almost like because all of these new houses are getting put out on the market, everybody then decides, I should go buy now because I'm seeing more houses, there's more houses going up. And then buyers before that didn't even really appear, they weren't even really active buyers, they all flood out from the sidelines and everybody races toward this body of water to all decide to get water at the same time. And guess what happens? All of a sudden things start selling faster, there's less supply, things start moving way quicker for higher price, etc. Okay? So that's what we're seeing. And the reason I find this flat number of new listings so interesting is after COVID, when 2020 hit, we saw, you can see here on my screen, March 2020, we see this decline in the number of new listings. And then in the following year, we see a decline as well of inventory because inventory is getting scooped up. And then last year was kind of more similar. March to April, we see more listings hitting the market. And then this year, we're just totally flat on new listings. So here's what's really fascinating. If you look at the general peak of the market, it's almost always May, all right? You look at this here, May in 2018, May in 2017, May in 2016, May in 2015, May in 2014, all right? May in 2013, May in 2012. So like over the last decade, it's almost always May. There's a couple exceptions. There's COVID, and then there is this year, 2010 right here. My point is this, if you look at the peaks being May, those peaks are all pretty much up above the 15,000 number, okay? Some of them are kind of trending towards 17,000, even last year, 17,000. So this year, if we're this low right now, what's gonna happen is there's just gonna be a ton of houses that hit the market this month here in May. It's gonna be really interesting times to see what plays out. But I just wanna show you this because the market has a heartbeat. And typically, it's following this heartbeat. Sometimes we get a little bit of a break in the rhythm because something massive like COVID causes that heartbeat to get a little bit sick. We're a little bit sick as an economy, so things get messed up. The other thing to keep in mind is even though sales prices are bouncing back right now, remember that everything from about February 2022 before to March right here, 2020, we had very low interest rates during this meteoric rise where things are growing like 20% year over year, which is like Warren Buffett level returns. Before that, things looked a lot more linear, or like if they are exponential, it's a very slow, gradual exponential, where in the last 3 years, it's looked like very, very exponential because of low interest rates. So keep in mind that over here, even though prices are going up, we still have higher interest rates, and we have more time that I think we need to see where things are gonna really go, because a lot of the people that were purchasing at the top here, they were all on variable interest rates. And those variable interest rates mean their mortgage payments are super high on those homes now that interest rates have jumped way up. So all of that is to say, I don't really know where this goes, and I kind of want to see what plays out next. But what I can tell you is that we're seeing some things that are kind of breaks in the pattern. So it's going to be unique and interesting. I do think though, this month, May, get ready. I think we're going to see a ton of stuff hit the market, because when you look at every year in terms of the peak of new listings in May, we're up way higher than we are right now. We're hovering at about 10,000 listings, and most years you're sitting at about 15,000 new listings that hit the market. So that would be like the equivalent of everything that hit the market March and February combined. So it could be like a big month for new listings. So let's follow along. Let's see what happens. That's my prediction, that this month there's going to be a ton of homes, of people racing to try and capitalize on the spring market because they're seeing their neighbors' homes sell for more money. They're going to list a whole bunch. And I think the buyers, ironically, are also all going to flood in and compete on those homes because they see them being listed before things cool off in the summer. And just to comment on this, right? You can see that the number of homes for sale every summer, when we're looking at this graph, it kind of peaks, where we see the number of homes for sale peak and then they trail off as we head into the winter, as they get kind of purchased up and then people decide not to list heading into the fall. So drop your prediction below. I want to know what your thoughts are on where this market's headed. Here's our little market stats segment. And if you're enjoying this, check out this playlist where we've got a whole bunch of other market stats for you to check out. You can watch our month over month analysis and breakdown, as well as a little tutorial on like how to understand what we're really looking at with all these numbers. My name's Jake Nicolle. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, smash that subscribe button, more to follow. We got a whole bunch of stuff that you're gonna really enjoy if you check out. And I'm very excited to hear where you're at in your real estate journey. Cheers, my friends.